Hey, it's me. Welcome back. In today's video, we are making the pajama shirt. A sewing pattern is available. In the previous video, we made the pajama pants. If you haven't seen it yet, give it a watch after this video. Now, let's begin. You will need these tools for this project, which is listed below, and of course fabric of your choice. For the preparation, make notches with the pattern notcher. This is a very useful tool that I'm using for years. Instead of scissors, I made the markings with the marker in all of the pieces. Use interfacing for the top color and the front facing to add stiffness. To begin, sew the undercolor pieces together with the pretty sides on the inside. Press the seam on both sides after that. Place the piping on the collar along the edges, but first undo the threads of the piping. This will be the same width of the seam allowance. Then you can cut off the rope. Replace the regular foot with the zipper foot. Then you can sew the piping on the pretty side of the fabric. Use your fingers to sew closer to the piping. Make sure to sew till the seam allowance width. Once done, trim the piping on the other side as well. Then you can sew the undercollar on top of the top collar with the pretty sides together, and you can use the same zipper foot for this process. This is how it should look once you're done. Trim the seam allowance around the corners and clip the corners of the piping to release the tension around the corners. Then take the collar to the iron to give it a nice press on both sides. Then you can top stitch the collar with the normal pressure foot. Repeat the previous steps with the facing. Overlap the piping 1 cm like so. Start or end sewing where the mark placement is. Cut off the rope the same width of the seam allowance where the bottom edge is. Clip the corner again of the piping to release the tension in the corner. Sew the front and facing together with the pretty sides, and make sure to start or end sewing where the mark placement is. Once you're done with sewing the pieces together, then you can trim the seam allowance again and clip the corner to release the tension in the piping. Then cut where the mark point is, flip the facing inside out. And this is how it should look after flipping it. Press the edge smoothly, then you can top stitch along the edge. Make a stay stitch in the front and back neckline, and this will make sure that when you sew the collar onto the neckline that it doesn't move, because partly the neckline is cut on the bias. change the stitch length for this one to a shorter stitch length. To make the front seam, sew the front and back together with the wrong side on the inside. Sew 1/2 centimeter away from the edge for the first seam. Press the seam on both sides. Trim down the seam allowance to 3 millimeters after pressing it. So again, 1/2 centimeter away from the edge, this time with a pretty side on the inside. Clip the neckline like so, and this will make it easier to move the neckline around when you're gonna attach the collar. Attach the collar to the neckline. First sew the back collar on the stay stitch. Once the back side of the collar is attached, fold the collar like so and then secure it with pins. Top stitch the collar into place. Now you can sew the sides together. I'm doing the front seam again, but if you don't want to do the front seam, then you can just do the regular seam. And I'm just repeating the same steps as I did before. If you're still watching the video, give it a like, and if you have any video suggestions, leave it down in the comments below. Also for the sleeve, repeat the same steps. Secure the facing to the front with a stitch, and that is to make sure that the facing stays in place when you're hemming the bottom edge. Attach the sleeve the same way as done before with the shoulder and the side seam. Just make sure when sewing the sleeve cap into the armhole that the sleeve cap is underneath so that you can sew the sleeve easily into the armhole. Fold the edge of the sleeve 2 times, sew along the folded edge. cut off the seam allowance of the pattern. Make the holes with any tools you have. Place the pattern on the right sides of the pajama. Then you can mark the holes with a marker. You can also make a T shape. It's whatever you prefer. For the next step, you need this pressure foot and the buttons, and with most sewing machines you need to place the button right here, but I do suggest to read the manual because each sewing machine works differently, and also make sure to test it before you do it on your actual garment. Place the foot right on the marking, then simply sew each buttonhole by machine. After that, seam rip each hole open. You can place a pin on one end just to prevent that you don't go overboard. Line up the edges like so, add a pin in each buttonhole, make a mark for the button placement. You can also use the pattern, by the way, I was just being extra here. Also for the button, read the manual. You will need this button foot, lower the feet to thingy, change it to the button setting. Before you start sewing, check if the needle goes through both holes without hitting the button. Use the hand wheel to do that. Adjust the stitch width if necessary. If all settings are okay, you can attach the buttons on the garment. I had to do 10 stitches and I did it on medium speed. If you finish sewing, make sure to leave extra thread before you cut it. If all the buttons are sewn, change it back to the original settings. Tie the thread 3 times, then you can cut it off. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, share the video, and follow me on Instagram or Pinterest. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.